Hi Scrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 20th, 2018. Sorry for starting a couple of minutes late, but we are doing some scrapping ourselves. We hope everyone's staying busy, scrapping often. Let us know anything that you want us to talk about scrap-wise while we're doing these live videos. We like to do them every Wednesday afternoon around 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so send questions ahead of time, send questions during. If you get to watch this after the fact, write questions below. We'll make sure to get you answers, link to blogs and other things that we can do to help your scrapping life be a little easier. Don't forget, you can always report your prices. You can join one of our Facebook groups where hundreds, if not thousands of scrappers have recently been posting pictures of materials that they get in, asking questions. It's become such a great interactive way to talk about scrap and learn what other people are doing that we've been really excited to see how it's been going. And we've been moderating the group to make sure that no people are coming in that are trying to advertise or get you to go here or there. We just want it to be people talking scrap. So know that it's a scrap-free judgment zone. So in the last week, unfortunately, we have some bad news, and we'll talk about that. It has to do with the tariffs, copper prices going down. A little bit of pessimism going into the summer months. We've been watching these markets and we've been given news as best we can, but it seems like there's going to be a lot of unrest the next few months, definitely going into the fall. And unfortunately, we've seen those copper prices take a hit in the last week and a half because of it. Commodity prices are now down 7 out of the last 8 trading days, and that doesn't apply only to copper. That applies to aluminum, steel, oil, nickel, gold. Maybe not 7 of 8 for all of those, definitely for copper, but most of those metals are down in the last week and a half or so, and it's been a tumultuous few weeks here. So after we saw those copper prices top out a few weeks ago, we were super optimistic. We saw Bear Bright reported in around $2.70 per pound on average. But since then, since we've seen some of these tariffs start to go into effect, we've seen copper drop 26 or 20, let me think here. As of before I came over here, 29 cents since it hit its high about 10 actual days ago. So about a 9% drop. And that has caused scrap yards to immediately lower their prices past where they should, because when large drops like that happen in such a short period of time, I mean, you think about it, when do you ever see anything drop 10%? You ever see the price of a car drop 10% in 10 days? I don't think so. Maybe last year's models, but that's going to be gradual over a month's time. You don't see gas prices go from a $3 average down to a $2.70 average in 10 days because gas prices, they're generally a little more calm. Yes, there are big things that could happen in markets that could affect them, but the thing that's happened here has been this tariff and trade war. We haven't had anything settled with China, and not only has U.S. government imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of products that are already going into effect, they've recently made an announcement that they're going to be doing an additional round of tariffs on another $200 billion of Chinese imports in the coming weeks if we can't come to some type of agreement. And it looks like at this point, a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and we updated one of our tariff blogs recently, is that a lot of these things are going to happen. And unfortunately, it's going to be a shitty short-term metal-wise, but I think in the long run, when a lot of these things kind of level themselves out and get sorted out, we're going to see a much better idea on where the markets are going to be. So the prices that we've seen reported over the last week for copper, we've seen Bear Bright go down about 20 cents a pound on average, averaging out around 246 to 251. We saw a couple of prices in the 260s and low 270s, and a couple of below, of course. We've seen aluminum prices decline 2 to 3%, with aluminum siding in the mid 40-cent range per pound, sheet aluminum in the high 30s, low 40s, depending where you are. We've seen heavy iron drop about $10 per ton, and depending on the grade of iron, unprepared #1 we've seen in the $170 to $220 range. Rotors about $30 over that, but we've still seen that market come down about $10 per ton in the last week and a half or two. Fortunately, we have not seen the price of light iron drop at all, and we've seen the price of stainless remain relatively stable, even though the nickel prices have dropped as well. Gold, however, has dropped about $30 per ounce overall in the $1,274 per ounce range right now, which will affect your electronics, and a lot of these things are starting to sort themselves out. Non-ferrous wise, gold has dropped, copper has dropped, aluminum has dropped. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of good news, but one thing that I have started to research and look into is where people are shipping materials now that the Chinese have stopped so many imports. There has been other Asian companies that have started to bring material in, especially the insulated copper wire, electric motors, sealed unit products. But one thing that we have seen that I want to go into in a positive effect is how materials staying in the country have helped. Maybe some of you have seen that Ford plans on reopening a plant that's been closed, reopening. They bought a building a few months ago that's been closed for 30 years. They're going to be redoing it, making it into a new research center, new offices, and they're starting to bring things on. Now, of course, Ford, isn't a metals company. They make cars, but they do consume metals to make those cars. So we've seen a lot of growth inside of the US, and a lot of smelting plants and melting facilities and processors of metal have continued to increase their production to reopen parts of their plants which have been previously closed, as well as buy new assets. Now, while the tariffs suck for the prices short term, what they have done is created jobs inside of the US. With a lot of these plants reopening different parts, you have people that are going to be working to reopen them, recertify them. You're going to be buying equipment inside the US to put in there. And those are going to be positive things that are going to affect the job market in a positive way in the US. Now, the metal prices might not be directly affected, but one thing you will see is more positive job growth. And with the job unemployment rates at almost near historic all-time lows, hopefully we'll continue to see that go down, and that will only help in the long term. Sometimes you have to make these short-term sacrifices for the long-term prosperity, and that's a lot of the things that we're seeing happening right now. Got a question, Virginia?
We have a couple shout-outs and then a price that was posted.
Great.
So Devin, Kirk, and Frank all say, hey, what's up?
Devin, Kirk, Frank, what's up to you?
And then we had Steve just reported a price for electric motors in St. Paul, Minnesota is 12 cents per pound.
Yeah, that's a very average price, Steve. So, we've seen electric motors posted anywhere from 9 to 15 cents per pound. Again, that's been a tougher item. And one thing that I'd like to talk about while we're on the subject, electric motors over the last 10 years have not only been copper wound, but they've been getting a heavy aluminum winding going into them as well. So a lot of scrap yards are going to start to look and separate different types of electric motors when more and more come in. One good example would be from washing machines and home appliances. A lot of the electric motors that were inside there have started to become aluminum wound. So the prices on aluminum motors is very, very cheap, almost cheaper than a heavy steel. So some scrappers have told us they've been putting some of their low-grade motors in with their unprepared #1 steel because some of the aluminum motor prices haven't been high enough to be able to really sort and separate them like they would the copper ones.
How would you find out if it's aluminum or copper?
So it's not easy to see if it's just an outside shell of a normal electric motor that'd be connected to something. But we're talking about washing machine motors, and washing machine motors are generally underneath the tub, so they're not they're exposed and you can see all the coils. So you just take a steel file, you file where those windings are. If it's more white, dull in color, that's going to be aluminum. If it's red, you're going to have copper. Some of you probably have some motors at home that you could post some to either our group page or even down below this comment link to show people.
Neil in Hobbs, New Mexico just reported electric motors are 5 cents per pound.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for the report, Neil. We're talking about electric motors and steel prices, and people are throwing these things together, and the electric motors are a really tough item, and the steel prices are a really tough item. I'll give you an idea. I was talking to someone out in St. Louis yesterday actually about a couple of forklifts that we were looking to scrap, and they were quoting us $50, $65 per ton for torching. Now on the East Coast, that price is double, if not triple, depending on where you are and what yard you're going to. And a lot of people continue to ask why there's such a price disparity on different areas of the country. And a lot of it has to do with transportation, how a lot of it has to do with need, how close we are. You know, if you're inside of the US and you're still 400 or 500 miles away from a very close smelting or refining or furnace facility for steel, it's going to be really difficult to move some of these metals. You know, torching is very expensive. It can cost anywhere from $30 to $50 per ton to torch heavy pieces of material. You know, I was talking to someone in Arizona recently about a large job that they were looking to torch up this conveyor system, and they couldn't figure out why the prices were only $60, $70 a ton compared to the East Coast where they've done work, where the prices were triple at the time. And you know, unfortunately, you know, some of these states, Arizona, Colorado, the Wyoming area, you have a really tough market to move metals. It costs more, you have to travel more, and you have to think about this. On the East Coast, you know, I know some scrap yards that can run 2 to 3 loads to a mill per truck per day, depending on what time they start, what the traffic is like. Where other places, they're having one truck go and deliver a load of material per day, and that's it. You have one load. That's a very small turnaround. It's an expensive thing. Now, while we're talking about prices falling, one thing that is positive is the oil prices have fallen as well. So we will start to see a little relief at the gas pumps. Now, a lot of people always ask how metal prices are correlated with gas prices, and there's not a direct correlation, but you know, the thing that we've talked about in the past and I'll talk about now is how they do touch each other and how they kind of link themselves. So gas prices going up means trucking, forklifts, material handlers, moving materials more expensive, which means that, you know, generally the metal prices will be a little higher, but as those fuel prices decrease, hopefully you'll see a little bit of a lapse and you'll see the metal prices continue to stay higher because people are still fulfilling orders that have been taken out ahead of time, and then they'll gradually come down as the oil prices come down. So it won't shock me going into July to see the prices of metals for steel going down another $20 or $30 per ton. You know, a couple of things happen in the middle summer months. A lot of companies will shut down their facilities to do cleaning, upgrading their items, and that will cause a bit of a blip in the market. You know, I know certain furnaces that will shut down for 2 to 3 weeks, if not a full month, just to you know, recalibrate their machines, clean them, change out parts. You know, all their employees are working, but they're not taking any metal in. They'll also take those opportunities while they're fixing different pieces to deplete the inventory that they've gotten in from different scrap yards and larger processors and make their piles go down, ship their material out and get it ready so they can kind of do an inventory and check themselves. But, you know, there's just a lot of different factors that go into this stuff, and you know, everyone will want to point to tariffs being one of the bigger ones, but there's more than just that, because there is real demand for these metals right now. You know, metal prices still are very, very strong, regardless of what you think, even with copper decreasing almost 10% in the last few weeks. You know, the Chinese still have a very large quench for copper, and they're still buying prepared materials, bare bright tubings, even certain grades of mixed brass. They just have told us time in and time out over the last year, we're not going to take all the crap from the world, you know, just because it has a little copper in it. We want the good stuff too. So they're being a little choosy on what they're doing right now. So overall, the markets have been relatively, you know, weak in the metals the last 2 weeks, but I still think that 2018 has been a very solid year, because don't forget, we're still near 3.5, 4-year highs on many different metals. You know, we were talking a year and a half ago with light iron prices $80, $100 per ton, and now we're doubling that. So those are really positive things. But continue to comment, continue to ask us questions, continue to give us the opportunity to help you make more money. Join our Facebook group. This way you can talk scrap with other scrappers and see pictures and get ideas. I was looking at a picture earlier today of a guy who posted 3 barrels of Romex, asking what people thought he'd be able to recover copper-wise out of there, and a couple people said 56 pounds. I saw one guy say 70% of the weight should be copper. So it was fun seeing different people interacting. Virginia, we got a question coming in?
Quick question at the end. David asked, I forget when you specifically talk about ton, you are not talking about 2,000 pounds, right?
I generally don't talk about tons in a 2,000 pound as a traditional ton. I generally talk about it in a metric or a long ton or a gross ton. 2,204 pounds, 2,240 pounds. Those tend to be the two numbers that you're going to see in the scrap world. I go by metric ton, 2,240. That's how I buy and sell my scrap, and it's been a standard number for a long time. So, you know, that's a 10% swing for a traditional 2,000 pound ton versus a 2,240 pound ton. So never think that you're getting robbed when you just think a ton is 2,000 pounds. Yes, it is. You're not wrong, but you are wrong in a scrap sense. Guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 20th, 2018. Continue to post your prices. Continue to join our group and talk more scrap. Ask us questions. We'll give you answers, and if we don't have them, we'll make sure to find them. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.